Thursday night, we have another group of 5 conference game. This time we go to the Sun Belt. Coastal Carolina and James Madison. We have JMU 9.5-point home favorites, 62 being the total in this game. How about, we didn't talk about it early, but it was a match. It was an upset worth talking about. How about ULM? How about the Warhawks? UL Monroe rising up and taking down James Madison 21-19 on Saturday. Very solid win for Bryant Vincent, man. People are sleeping on that on him as a head coach. It was a great under the radar coaching hire by UL Monroe to get Bryant Vincent. This is the guy that got screwed at UAB. He should have been the head coach, not that oaf Trent Dilfer. And we see that program just absolutely going down the shithole right now with him at the helm. That job should have went to Bryant Vincent because the kids wanted him. He took over after Bill Clark retired at UAB, and they played great down the stretch. They loved playing for the guy, and UAB's numbnuts AD department, AD and the whole department said, nope, sorry, you're out. And they brought in Trent Dilfer. Terrible. He should have been the guy, but now he's at ULM, and that was a great win for ULM. It was a bad loss, though, for James Madison. I mean, 17-point favorites. We're talking about a JMU team that, just came off a 70-50 win against North Carolina and then a 63-7 beat down of Ball State. And then you go to ULM, and you struggled. Their quarterback, Alonzo Barnett, struggled in that game, probably his worst game at the quarterback spot, only 20 of 47. 251 yards, sub 50% completions, not that efficient at all. Trouble running the football, only 148 rushing yards, and it took 34 attempts to get those 148 rushing yards against ULM's defense. ULM's got a defense, man. That's what we're finding out about them. And James Madison found that out as their offense struggled, stuck in mud most of that game. An offense that's been putting up 60s and 70s in some other games this year. So it's a bounce-back spot now for James Madison, coming off that very disappointing loss as double-digit road favorites at ULM. Kind of feels like a good spot to back them. But, you give this Coastal team 9.5-point favorite, or 9.5 points, I should say, as an underdog. A team that has started the year 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. They beat Jacksonville State big in their opener. They hammered William and Mary. They beat Temple, although they did struggle a bit, didn't cover in that. They lose to Virginia 43-24. And even in that loss to Virginia, Coastal still gained 302 through the air with their quarterback, Ethan Vasco. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they throw the ball here against this James Madison defense. Again, it's a JMU defense that we've seen at times be somewhat susceptible. We think of the North Carolina game. I don't know. This is a tricky one because back home after a very disheartening loss, would it shock me if James Madison brings their A game and they win and maybe cover? It wouldn't shock me, but you get you get Coastal Carolina in this underdog range. They're getting 9.5 points. Long term, this has been a solid underdog team. Last year, though, one thing that does concern me about backing Coastal here is at home they look completely and utterly outclassed by James Madison last year, 56-14. Now, that was the Kurt Signetti, Jordan McLeod, James Madison group. That's not that same group this year. They're definitely not as good as they were last year. And I think maybe that Monroe game might have been a sign that maybe this team is down just a little bit. Because it's one thing when you beat North Carolina, non-conference team. Remember, too, CMAC, you're getting into conference play. All these teams know you. All these teams know you. And know your tendencies and where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And certainly Bryant Vincent and UL Monroe exploited that last week. Now here's another conference opponent. And, I'm not a big Tim Beck fan as a head coach, but, again, familiarity. You know what you're going to expect here from James Madison. So I lean Coastal, actually. I know it's a bounce-back spot for James Madison, but I do lean Coastal a little bit, especially with them getting almost doubles in this game. As an underdog. CMAC, what do you think? Coastal Carolina, James Madison.
Yeah, JMU. I mean, there's some ugly teams maybe that you want to bet on, but yeah, Charlotte, Monroe. I think that Southern Miss, they covered.
I had Monroe too against James Madison. Even though I respected James Madison, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Monroe. They thought they could
Yeah.
hang. I didn't think they were going to win, though. My gosh, what a win for, like I said, for Bryant Vincent. Incredible win.
Yeah. Huge win. And just it was a flat spot for James Madison. Now they're back home. The last couple of years, like you talked about, different team, different old thing. You hit on it. They just beat down this Coastal squad. I've been a little impressed. Like they played Virginia, and they kind of got beat up in that game. And the Temple game's a little misleading. The only game that didn't go over Babano, and that was 21-3. They just kind of took the second half off. But last week, more points against Old Dominion. So I just think both these teams will have success of moving the football. Now, this total's up there a little bit. So I wanted to look at it a little bit more. But I think we get points in this game. And one thing, I think James Madison, they got to come back, a little bit after that loss, and get it together at home. But there's just no way I'm going to back them laying 10. I just can't do it. So we'll see if I can get there with Coastal. Vasco, he's been pretty good. But they made
he's gotten better.
What's his face? Joseph.
Yep.
Yeah, they made Joseph look. He was slinging it. Actually, there's the second stringer for Old Dominion last week. So this Coastal defense just hasn't been there, especially the last couple of weeks, giving it 43 and 48, even the 20 to Temple. If you kind of think of that. So yeah, I thought we could get some points in this one, and I'm off the side. Lean Coastal right now.
I agree. I think this could be a game, you're right, where we see some points scored in this one. Remember, they're more balanced now under Tim Beck. Jamie Chadwell was there. They were definitely way heavier skewed to the run, Coastal on offense. Now they're more balanced. They definitely throw the ball a lot more than they did
are
before.
throwing it.
Yeah. So and I agree with the total move. You're right. And you're not alone, because this total was 59.5 at 62 now. So there's been some movement up in the total for sure. Shout out to everyone in the chat before we get to our next game. Ross Pitts, Talk Sports with JT, Gold Jew, Myron Kidd, Rance, Bama Boy, Nasty Nate. Good to see Nasty Nate. Goryan Ninkovsky, Old E, Kongs Clips, who's had a phenomenal first month of the season. Great to see everyone in the chat.